Hey, good stuff, family. We're coming to you remotely today from Jefferson City, Missouri, mid-Missouri, my old stomping grounds. I was born in St. Louis, or not born, but raised. A lot of you know that. But we went to school here at the University of Missouri in Columbia, and today we're in Jefferson City. And as is the case often, when people know that you do the good stuff, that you're telling these stories that uplift, encourage, and inspire, then they have a suggestion for you. And sure enough, there are several people right here in Jefferson City, Missouri, doing fantastic things. And as we've talked about before, a lot of times it's in the wake of things you would not have scripted. And the guest we're going to bring in today is Coach Jim Marshall. And here's a parent in the wake of unthinkable grief and losing Cody, his 19-year-old son, to an opioid addiction. Will tell you, like in those days, he didn't even want to see daylight. And what he decided was, why don't we get out in front of this? So he is, as I feel like it feels almost cliche to say, turning the tragedy into triumph. But the truth is, these people are kicking butt in preventing future deaths in the name of Cody, in his son's name. And that's legacy. And, there's no parent is supposed to outlive their child. And the legacy typically is the other way. But when you meet someone like this who decides to uplift, encourage, and inspire and prevent deaths by sparking dialogue, let's talk about it. He's more than just a DARE officer. He is making great strides here in mid-Missouri, and we're hoping, if you all will share this, that we can even spread his message even further. And we're also going to bring in a friend who I met in Cleveland, who has her personal story, Lisa Bachman, a new recent author, a little later on. But I'm going to go ahead and bring in Coach Jim right now. Hi, Coach.
How are we doing?
I'm so good. I'm so glad you could join us on this late notice.
Well, thank you for having me.
But that's what we do, and when you hear that someone's doing as much good as you're doing, so now is a perfect time. So actually, you people know you in mid-Missouri. He was actually, Coach Jim was a coach at Jefferson City High School, Westminster, William Woods, head track coach and cross country coach, which is how people know you, correct?
I would say that's probably where most people pass me or my corner as a teacher and a coach in Jeff City or Central Missouri. Yeah.
And so you always had connections with students in a role, as a coach role, but now you're reaching them on such a more important personal level. So I wonder, would you start? Cody's gift is the foundation that you started. Would you give me a window? Cody had graduated at 18. Give me a window into what in hindsight maybe he was up against.
Well, when I speak, I tell of, that 18, 19 for a lot of kids is a rough age. Where am I going? What am I doing? What's my future? Cody wasn't a college-bound kid. He had some learning disabilities from a brain injury that he had at age 3. And it just wasn't in the cards for him to be a college kid like a lot of his friends who did really well and went to colleges all over the country. So, in the midst of a kid with that situation, you're trying to kind of figure out where you're going to go since that's not one of your options. So he was working, and trying to kind of figure life out, so to speak. But I don't think life was, at that time, life was hard on him without friends and working in a factory with men twice his age. He just wasn't happy. And that set him up to potentially be very sad or upset. I don't know that he actually had depression. I don't know. We never went to a mental health specialist over the situation. But one thing I do know is that he chose to self-medicate based upon some friends who suggested he take some of their Xanax to feel a little bit better about where he was in life. And that's how it started.
Right. And when you have pinpointed, now you go into these schools, and I loved one of the testimonials on your page said that this principal said he had never seen a gymnasium of 400 high school students get so quiet so quickly when you spoke.
Yeah.
The power in that. But I want people to realize what he's doing now. But let's just stay in the beginning days quickly of it wasn't always that way. You literally you said that you were happy to just stay in the basement. Walk us through the vulnerable part of your story.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of when you lose your own kid, you kind of play that, well, what should I have done differently to have saved my boy? So there was a tremendous amount of guilt to start off with, because you have a boy that you loved and raised. You're an educator, you're a teacher, you're a coach. There's thousands of parents and kids that have told that you have done great things to help raise their kid into a great adult. And I quite frankly have a high accountability level on my impression upon my students and athletes. So I immediately blame myself a lot for the loss of my boy. What did I do wrong? What could I have done better? How have I been a father to thousands of kids in this community, but I couldn't even save my own boy? So there was a lot of, I mean, the grief was there, but you add the guilt to it, and you really didn't even want to be seen outside your house or have a conversation with anybody about losing your boy, because you had those two things going on at that time.
Right. And you found the way to get to rise up out of it. And what you found was you're finding these kids. It really boils down in your experience: depression, anxiety, PTSD, the things that cause as young as 5 years old, some of these
Yeah.
gut wrenching stories that you're getting. But so your point is get behind mental health. So tell us about, and you've already made some great legislative progress here in Mid-Missouri as well.
Yeah, 100%. As you research or you learn or listen to people who have been through this, and I've told you that I have listened to thousands of stories from kids and parents that have had experiences with depression, anxiety, PTSD, suicide, which, by the way, that's its own epidemic right now. Age 10 to 14, we've tripled our suicide numbers in the last 10 years. I mean, we have 10-year-olds looking for ropes. That's where we're at mental health wise. And so what I now kind of refer to as this whole deal I call the struggle epidemic. When you talk about the mental health issues our kids have, and you look at the substance use numbers and you look at the suicide numbers, they're all interrelated. They're a three-headed monster.
Right.
And, when the mental health one blows up and gets worse, of course, the other two get worse.
Right.
We know that when we study kids, that about 1 out of 3 will suffer from depression before they graduate. My question to educators, to schools, to parents: how much are we talking about it? How much dialogue are we having on it? In a health class, I'll have a 900-page book, and only 3% of that 900-page book will deal with mental health issues, substance use, or suicide. Yet it affects 30% of our kids.
And how many times have we heard, we need to remove the stigma? Yay, that sounds great. How do you do it? And it's like being vulnerable, so vulnerable.
Bring it
to
to the
sharing
table. Yeah, normalize it.
it. Yes, yes. And no, I wrote that normalize the talk is what you said. You said you said we feel like we are slowly reaching these young kids about depression and anxiety into the schools to fill the gap. So these parents, the testimonies that you're getting, they're going home and talking to their parents. They're telling on their friends, knowing that they could save their lives. Kids are making informed decisions because of your message. Is that true?
Yeah, I have teachers and principals who, after I leave, said, yes, our kids had great discussions with their teachers when they went back to class. We have parents and kids that are, emailing the administrators and school districts that say, first thing Johnny came home and talked about was your talk. And it was a great talk. I appreciate that, you brought these topics up, because it kind of forced us to talk a little bit about something that maybe we've kind of ignored. Quite frankly, I don't think parents are ignoring this issue. I think we tend to tell ourselves, well, I've got a good kid. He won't make these poor choices. This won't happen to my child. I mean, how many books or movies have you read that have that as a theme? Not my child.
You know what? I had a couple more questions for you, but this is a perfect transition to bring in my friend Lisa Bachman, who has a book called The Book We Wish We Had. There it is. And I met Lisa in Cleveland. Justin Bachman, her son. You want to give us kind of the overview? Like, I was president of the Justin Bachman fan club from the second I met him. And this is a kid, coach, that honestly shouldn't probably even be alive, Lisa. That's not a stretch, is it?
No. He looked at me square in the eye and told me that he would not live to be 18. He attempted suicide 3 times before he was 11 years old. And coach, I'm so sorry for your loss. And I applaud all the work that you're doing. And, you know, when you talk about 10-year-olds are looking for ropes, that's exactly what our son did at 10. He took the sheets off his bed and was ready to jump out the window with a noose around his neck. Mm-hmm. And thank God we walked into the room as he was preparing. So we caught him just in time. And that's just by luck, by sheer luck that we walked in at that moment.
And this is why I'm looking at the good stuff banner up. People might be joining going, this does not sound like the good stuff. Here's the quote from my own friend, Lisa Bachman, this morning. We have to do the hard work to get to the good stuff. The hard work in these two parents' example is stepping up and saving lives. And then Justin, not only, clearly God was not finished with Justin Bachman. He turned that into Live Loud. Tell us about that foundation. And now I'd like to take credit. He's actually a broadcast news reporter. I taught him everything he knows. That's what I like to think anyway, when he interned with me. Yeah. But tell us about that foundation he started.
Yeah. So when Justin was 13, he was running in a school cross-country race and was disqualified. He lives with a medical condition called Tourette syndrome, which made him very different, which is part of what caused a lot of his, he was bullied and just didn't have the social skills to deal with it. So he, at age 13, started a nonprofit. It was called Honor Good Deeds, but we eventually started doing businesses different like you. And his whole goal was to get people to embrace their differences and do what he calls living loud, which means live your life on your terms. And he started holding events where he connected people who were facing all kinds of differences to nonprofits. And he started speaking. And coach, just like you, he did full school assemblies for students in grades 5 through 12. He's spoken in 16 different states and reached over I think we've estimated it's a little over 150,000 people. And it, you know,
Lisa, I don't know if you can hear me, but I lost your mic. Do you hear her still, coach?
Yeah, I hear.
You do hear her. Okay, go ahead. I lost your audio here, but go ahead, Lisa. He still hears you.
Now I don't.
Okay. It's probably not the internet connection because we still see you just fine. Is your microphone on mute by any chance?
Can you hear me? I lost connection.
There you are. Yeah, we're back. It's all good. It's all good. We just roll. Look who we're talking to. Like, in what you guys have been up against, a technical difficulty. Please bring it. So you were saying you've reached all of these people, and then he went.
Are you able to hear me?
I do. We hear you. Yeah, we have you back.
Okay, I can't hear you for some reason.
Oh, what is going on? Oh, for Pete's sake. Well, you can work on it because I can almost fill in where you were going. So the Justin went on. It's repurposed lives a lot of times, is what we say, coach, on this stream. It's about people repurposing. And here you are, coach, and you found a way to kind of repurpose your life so that it, in fact, uplifts, encourages, and prevents future deaths by opioids. So I know that when you want to talk about, are you making an impact in Missouri, coach? I guess we're coming up on a year, August, since legislation was enacted, correct? To try and trace these meds that are being prescribed.
Yeah, I was part of a pretty good sized group that have been pushing for a prescription drug monitoring program for about 10 years now. And Missouri was the last one. Missouri was the only one without a prescription monitoring program. And we fought a lot of, a lot of opposition to this. So, the fact that we were able to get one was a big victory, and hopefully a prevention in that way. The other one that I worked on a couple of years ago was called the Good Samaritan Law, which was introduced as Bailey and Cody's Law. Another young lady who passed of an overdose. Her mother helped on that legislation. And that law was passed to reduce and eliminate prosecution of young people who actually brought in overdosing friends because they were leaving them, body dumping, so to speak, because of the fear of prosecution. My boy kind of died that way as a result of friends not taking him to the hospital instead of dropping him off at home. So that one was passed in 2018, Cody and Bailey's Law, the Good Samaritan Act, and then the Prescription Monitoring Act. So, we hope that we prevented some people from losing their lives as a result of that legislation.
I put the website up there, but my guess is there's no apostrophe. It's probably codysgift.org, correct?
Right. No apostrophe. Yes.
There we go. With no apostrophe. Let's see if they can pull this up now. Nope. One moment.
So I guess right now we're working on year 11 of Cody's Gift, and we've been to about 715 schools around Missouri, like 100 out of 115 counties.
Wow.
And we speak to middle school, elementary school level kids and high school kids, assemblies, health classes, parent talks after school's over, you name it. If somebody wants me to come down to the boot heel of Missouri, I'll get up at 4 a.m. And if there's 10 people, we'll get 10 people on track with what I got to say.
And I know that you've been on record in saying you leave these speeches drained. It's so hard for you to do it, but yet you do.
It's obviously I take a hit. I tell the kids when I start now, if I kind of lose my feelings and emotions a little bit, it's because, remember, I'm kind of cutting my gut open and sharing with strangers a very hurtful experience. So, but that's what makes it real.
Yes,
that's what makes the kid who has that same experience say, you know what? I think I want to tell him my story because this guy's non-judgmental. He's open. He makes me feel like this isn't a freak show at my house. This is normal America, and this is how we handle it. So I think my pain is what makes the message moving.
My pain is what makes the message moving. Lisa, I'm going to try. I mean, that's it. I feel like that should be a subtitle of this stream. Lisa, can you hear us now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, and we hear you. So I know he's speaking your language as well. 2 parents.
Yep.
And this book that you have out now, the book we wish we had. Tell us briefly, what you have in that book and the inspiration to write it.
Yeah, and the tagline is how we stayed hopeful when hope wasn't enough, and people think it's just hope, and hope isn't enough. You have to put in the time, you have to put in the work. And just like you, Jim, I get very vulnerable. I talk about things that I wish I had done. The fact that we ignored a lot of the signs because we didn't want to think it was our kid.
Right.
Just like you said, we did that. I talk about how teachers pushed us aside and how we learned to advocate for the needs that our son had. We talk about his mental health issues and how we had to learn to speak a whole different language to him. He truly believed he was worthless. He believed he was a burden to us. And, like he would come home from school and get 100% on a test. And I would say, oh, you're so smart. And he would look at me and say, I'm not smart. I'm stupid. What are you talking about? And he honestly, truly believed we were lying to him. Yeah. So I had to learn a whole new way of talking with him, both my husband and I. And that's what's in the book. Is we go through the exercises that we did with him. We joke and we say that Mary Poppins landed in our lives in the form of a social worker that would come to our house 3 to 4 days a week and would stay for hours. And this went on for 3 years. Mm-hmm. This is not an illness that just gets treated overnight. I had friends that said, oh, get him a couple sessions with a therapist and he'll be fine. Doesn't work that way. We all had to work. All 5 of us had to really put in the time and the hard work to make things better. And it did. And he today, like Dawn said, he is the kid with Tourette syndrome that was so different is reporting the news at 6 o'clock on TV live. And he's changing lives. During his high school years, in a 3-year period, we had 29 kids that we know of approach him after a speech, tell him that they had a suicide plan and they wanted to get help. And we were able to get all of those kids help. And that's what I wanted to do. The book is for parents. It's for friends. It's for grandparents. It's for teachers. It's for healthcare providers. We have to come to their level. We can't expect that a kid is going to adapt to us. We've got to look at them. And it's really unconditional love that makes all the difference. We always told our son, no matter what you do, no matter how bad you think you are, we love you.
And this is what you're doing, Coach. These kids are coming up to you with these gut-wrenching testimonies, 5 and 6 years old.
My talk is about 1/3 of stories that I've gotten from the kids after the talks now, because that makes it more real. It comes from human beings. But I'll generally spend an hour after a talk listening to stories and giving hugs.
Yep.
That's what made me understand how many kids are suffering. You can't understand it as an educator in the classroom because they hide it and they don't show it. And as a result of these kids coming up, I'm like, wow, this is really a lot worse than what most human beings realize our kids are going through.
Right. Or they show it in ways that are misunderstood.
Right. Behavior. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Correct.
So I can't tell you, like, if my heart overflows right now of realizing of the gravity of the things that you guys have been up against as parents. But when we say God weaves, now watch him work, and together we can, together we will. Mid-Missouri meets Cleveland Friend, now in Florida, Orlando, correct?
Yep.
And let's just go. If you would, get on and share this link. As soon as we end this live, it'll be available on the Good Stuff Family Facebook page, on the YouTube page as well. Share if you would. That's how it works. The hope is that it's like pulling on a string. I asked Lisa to do this interview an hour ago. I just asked Coach less than 24 hours ago. This is what we do. Just get in. That's the message for if you're watching is, what is it that's on your heart? Just flip and do it. Do it already. Take the next best step. If it's painful, maybe it's not it doesn't have anything to do with your kids, but what is it that you know that you could do today to be a difference? That's the bottom line. So share. Check out Lisa's book. I'll put it back up one more time. It is, here it is. Oh, good. Oh, perfect. Oh, look at Justin with a microphone, even back then. That's the best. There it is. The book we wish we had. And check out, I'm going to pull up so we can actually see it again. So it's on there so that it's saved. Jim?
Lisa, I'm glad you wrote a book, because everybody tells me I should write a book, but that's not who I am and how I communicate. And I tell those people, I'm more of a face-to-face guy. I've been told some of my talks, they seem like a replica of being in a halftime speech where my team's 10 points down. Yeah. Because part of my pain isn't crying, it's getting after it as an old coach and lecturing and trying to motivate people. So I guess we kind of help each other fill our gaps. I'm not a writer.
Yep.
You are, but I'm the guy that gets in there and stirs up the crowd.
Yep.
That's it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You lean on her. She can lean on you. You share your audience. He shares his. And the more people we could reach. I say this almost every live stream now. Bob Goff is an author and a speaker who I call him my friend and mentor who doesn't know it yet. But he says to find the people who are aligned with the things you're doing, or excuse me, who are adjacent with the things you're doing, and align yourselves with them. Yep. I'm a writer. I'm a storyteller. And in trying to get this business launched in which we have a bigger impact and a bigger reach, I thought, I'm not a business person. And what do? I lean into all the nonprofit people who we've met, the attorneys, the business, the entrepreneurs, and lo and behold, they have stepped up in ways I could never have imagined. And that is the good stuff. It's also a good cue for Travis. You want to come in really quickly and kind of explain what we're trying to do? This is Travis Ford, who our roots go back to the University of Missouri here in Missouri, and he's still in Jefferson City. And yeah, tell them a little bit. Do you guys want to stay with us for the next 2 minutes, or I can put
Sure.
you backstage? Okay, all right, cool. So yeah, the point is we know that so many people want to be part of this movement. A lot of times part of the movement more so even than the advertising, but so we have a whole plan now.
Yeah, I mean, Dawn has been doing the good stuff since I've known her. 30 years ago, we went to journalism school together, and it wasn't called the good stuff then, but she always had a heart for people who have been through difficulties, people who are doing great work. And we used to tell her, you're an incredibly talented feature reporter. You just have such a heart for it, and it's so sincere, and it's not fluff. You're making it real. And at the time, in journalism school, you want to go into like hard news, be a breaking news reporter. And so she said, people aren't going to take me seriously if I'm a feature reporter. So, but she couldn't get away from it because there's nobody better at it. And so she's been doing this now for a long time, and has made the transition from being a communications person to also a business person and an entrepreneur, and that takes a lot of learning. I had to go through the same thing myself. It's a big learning curve. So what we're doing now is putting the word out that the Good Stuff family welcomes sponsorships, welcomes people or organizations, corporations who can sponsor an episode or be an ongoing monthly contribution sponsor, or make a contribution to the business that just helps it go. And what Dawn and her team are finding is that a lot of companies that they're talking to about sponsorships are saying, the advertising is great, we'll take it, but we're really not doing this for that reason. We just believe in you. Everybody is, so just frankly, she doesn't say negative things, so I will sick to death of the evening news and the focus on negativity. And there's a whole lot more good stories in the world than bad, and somebody needs to tell them. So people find this to be very refreshing, and there's nobody who does it better than Dawn. So the next step is to, and we're getting there, make it a sustainable business.
And this is why everyone needs a Travi. We've been friends for 32 years, and nobody's getting any younger. But that's it. If you're listening to this, find the people who are adjacent to the things that you're trying to do, and then align yourselves with them. And that's what I'm hoping. Maybe we're going to do a follow-up with you too. I predict a fantastic friendship of some fantastic parents that are really empowering, not just uplift, encourage, inspire, but empowering other parents, other educators, and preventing future loss of life. That is classic, the good stuff. So thank you. 1,000 thank yous to you both. Coach, just met you today. I feel like I've known you forever, and I hope that we can continue to help you in what you're doing. And Lisa, I can't wait to read the book.
Thank you.
Well, thank you
for giving us the platform.
All right. And it's a goodstufffamily.com. And we have YouTube, and we have a Facebook page as well. So thanks again. God bless you both.
Take care.